Good day to you and welcome to this CPD learning activity dealing with the new 2020 SAICA CPD policy. In this webinar, I hope to provide you with some information that will shed light on the content of SAICA's new output or outcome-based CPD policy. Right, so if we look at the accountancy profession, where we stand at the moment, and that would include the auditing profession, as you can see on the slide in front of you, things are not looking so rosy. We can look at the corporate scandals and corruption that has been taking place, the fact that the South African auditing profession has dropped from number 1 in the world, a position which it maintained for 7 years consecutively, to the number 30 position in the world overnight. The fact that we have the 4th industrial revolution, we need to ask the question, should that be seen as a threat or an opportunity for accountants as such and for the profession as a whole? The CA 2025 whole drive of SAICA and also the new competency framework, both from an education and training point of view. And this webinar deals with the post-qualification competency framework with the eye on registered and professional qualified accountants, and that's what we're speaking about today. So in terms of the new competency framework, it is very clear that there are new skills that are required from accountants, and also this is driven very much by the fact that the profession is experiencing a lack of the ability to think critically and also that skill of problem solving among chartered accountants and associate general accountants, etc. So all of these factors obviously contributed to the drive towards a new CPD policy, and that is where the outcome-based CPD policy of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants originated. All right, so the question now, why the change to the CPD policy? I think it is important to know that already in 2016, there was a workshop about the evolution of the profession hosted by the Chartered Accountants Worldwide movement. And I think this one was hosted in South Africa, and the content of this discussion is quite important. Participants identified that the profession needs to remain relevant through developing a range of multidisciplinary skills. So what's important here is that we cannot be limited to our traditional skills that we actually acquired while doing our tertiary education at university level. We need a wider range of multidisciplinary skills, especially from a technological point of view as well. Secondly, accountants have to be committed to lifelong learning. That concept of I studied 4 years, I had, some of our accountants have done training contracts, for example, for another 3 years, and then, that's a 7-year commitment, and now I'm done studying, now I can be an accountant. It doesn't work like that. If we compare our profession to the medical profession, for example, what's important is that we expect our doctors to remain updated with the very latest technology and approaches and cures and medicines, etc. And accountants have to be committed to that same approach of being lifelong learners and not studying and completing our studies and then falling behind on the latest developments. Also having an awareness of stakeholder needs and requirements, so a different focus. What do our stakeholders really need? The set of financial statements that I'm preparing. Who are my stakeholders? If I consider preparing annual financial statements, will I be building those financial statements into an integrated report? Because an integrated report contains the interpretation for my stakeholders. And if I want to do that interpretation, I must be very aware of who my stakeholders are and what their needs are, so that I can interpret the financial statements from that point of view as well. It cannot be a tick box approach where we feed a trial balance into a program. On the other side, the financial statements get popped out. We just put our signature on and we have actually then complied with the law. All right, so that type of approach is going to lead to the death of our profession. Right. Then being trusted and ethical leaders that are committed to the truth. We can see that there are all the more evidence popping up that accountants and even chartered accountants are not committed to the code of professional conduct. All right, so ethical behavior under all circumstances. We have to be ethical even when no one is watching, and that is where the concept lies. And ethical behavior is much more than just saying, well, I will never accept a bribe for a specific outcome or pay a bribe to achieve a certain outcome. It's not just about bribes. Ethical leadership and being a trusted business person means just so much more. Sharing legacy knowledge, being connected with the real world, all of these aspects are very important and should be embraced in order to keep the profession relevant and actually being able to still make that difference that us as accountants can do in the businesses and the lives of our clients. All right. Now, an interesting quote from the World Economic Forum, as you can see on the slide in front of you, regarding the shaping the future of education, gender, and work. Now, just have a look at the important aspects that I'm highlighting here. Technological change. Now, this is what we're undergoing at this stage. And obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has also, almost, how can I say, promoted a quicker change regarding technology and the use of technology from the point of view of remote working, dependence on technology, what do you call it, ICT, communication technology, the internet, etc. All of those things have been brought to the forefront at a much faster pace than initially anticipated. Now have a look. Technological change will have a significant impact on job creation and displacement. Skills gaps. Look at that, skills gaps. And that's also what we're seeing at this stage. Accountants that are still very naive and still very oblivious towards the fact that new skills are required to remain relevant. Education and gender gaps. Preparing talent will be key for ensuring that the economy and society fully reap the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth industrial revolution is not on its way. We are living in the fourth industrial revolution. So if we are not feeling threatened in inverted commas, or at least seeing the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution, then we are a bit naive. All right. So this will require breaking down, and this is so important, breaking down old silos between education systems, being your universities on the one hand, and labor markets, being practice on the other side. The days where we can say that what happens at the university and what is taught from a textbook is worlds apart from what really happens in practice. Those days have to unfortunately be over. And that gap has to be bridged. And I know that our tertiary educations, the educations of higher learning in South Africa, are addressing this whole change, making the syllabi, etc., more realistic, more work-focused, work readiness being at the forefront of these syllabi. And that is why I'm already seeing the gap being bridged between the academia and the real world, if we can say it like that. All right, so that's very important. So breaking down those old silos between education systems and labor markets, new agile approaches to regulation and public-private collaboration. All right, so all of these things, we are seeing that change is being driven, and we as accountants have to adapt to the change that is currently affecting our profession. So that leaves us with the fact that we can then ask, is all of this that's happening in our profession, is it a threat or is it an opportunity?